Every house has its secrets, but mine has a secret life. It's a life that breathes only on Saturdays, in the quiet hum of a vacuum cleaner and the scent of lemon polish. In this life, I am not Michael, the programmer who stares at lines of code until his eyes burn. I am someone else. Someone softer, more meticulous, someone who finds a profound sense of purpose in the humble rituals of domesticity. Her name is Molly. And this is the story of how she stopped being a secret and became my reality. Saturday had a texture all its own. It was the day the world outside my windows exhaled, but for me, it was a day to breathe in. This was my sanctum, my special cleaning day, the one day of the week I permitted my other self to come out and take charge. Her name was Molly. All my life, I have been a quiet but steadfast crossdresser. The silk of a blouse or the swish of a skirt held a certain magic, but nothing compared to the profound sense of rightness I felt in my humble cleaner's uniform. I was already wearing it, having slipped into the persona as easily as I slipped into the clothes. There was nothing glamorous about the ensemble, a simple, navy blue housekeeping dress, the kind with a Peter Pan collar that hotel maids once wore. Over it, a starched white work apron was tied snugly at my waist. Below, the sheer whisper of nylon pantyhose encased my legs, ending in a pair of sensible, black lace-up shoes. And, of course, the foundation of it all, the matching satin bra and panties, and my very realistic silicone breast forms. They were the only truly expensive part of Molly's outfit, but they were essential. They gave a soft, comforting weight to my chest, a physical confirmation of the identity I felt blossoming within. I stood before the full-length mirror, gathering my unruly, shoulder-length hair. I twisted it methodically, coaxing the wilder aspects of Michael into the composed order of a neat chignon at the nape of my neck. A touch of rose-colored lipstick, just enough to soften my mouth, and the transformation was complete. I harbored no grand illusions. The face staring back at me was androgynous, a blend of soft and hard lines that wouldn't easily pass for female under the harsh scrutiny of the public eye. But that wasn't the point. Passing was for the outside world. This was for the world within me. The satisfaction it brought was a deep, resonant hum, partly sexual, yes, but also something more elemental. It was a drive I'd tried to suppress countless times over the years, a current too powerful to dam. But this Saturday held a different kind of charge, a fizz of nervous energy that danced in my stomach. My girlfriend, Eleanor, was coming to visit. She wanted to see Molly in her element, as she'd put it. With a key to the house, she'd promised to let herself in sometime in the morning, telling me to just go about my routine. Anticipation was a tight knot in my chest as I had a quick breakfast. The house, a generous gift from my wealthy parents, was large for one person. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and my study, where I worked from home as a freelance programmer. It was a lot of space to keep clean, a task I relished. Carrying the vacuum and my caddy of supplies upstairs, I couldn't quiet the thoughts of Ellie's imminent arrival. We'd been together for over 6 months, a whirlwind of deepening intimacy. I'd confessed my secret to her early on, terrified but unable to build a real relationship on a lie. She'd seen me in silken nightgowns and casual dresses during her overnight stays, but she had never witnessed this, the full ritual. Molly, the dedicated maid. This was a new threshold for us both, and my adrenaline was singing. I had just begun vacuuming the master bedroom, lost in the rhythmic roar and the satisfying sight of the plush carpet yielding its dust, when a voice cut through the noise. "Well, hello there, Molly." I jumped, shutting off the machine. The sudden silence was deafening. I turned, my face instantly hot with a blush. There was Eleanor, leaning against the doorframe, a brilliant, affectionate smile playing on her lips. "Ellie," I stammered, my voice softer than I intended. I didn't hear you come in." Her eyes, a warm hazel, sparkled with amusement and something else, excitement. She took a few steps into the room, her gaze sweeping over me with a critical but gentle appraisal. "The picture of domestic bliss. I was watching you for a minute. You were so focused, so completely absorbed. It was like watching an artist at work. Now I finally get it, what you've been trying to explain. This isn't just about the clothes, is it? It's a calling. Still blushing, my smile shy, I smoothed down my apron. How do I look? Is it silly? Silly? Not at all. She circled me slowly, her smile softening. But you're right, you're still Michael in a dress. A very dedicated Michael. You have lovely, soft features, and those legs are fantastic in nylons. But there's a distance to go before you're truly womanly. She must have seen the flicker of disappointment in my eyes, because she quickly reached out and took my hand. But that's the exciting part, isn't it? The potential. Great works of art aren't born overnight, they're sculpted. We could work on this. Together. Her words, "we could work on this," sent a tremor through me, a jolt of both fear and profound longing. A full makeover was a fantasy I'd barely allowed myself to whisper in the darkest corners of my mind. And now Ellie was offering it, not as a judgment, but as a shared project. You have no idea what you just said, Ellie, I breathed, my voice barely a whisper. A makeover. That's the ultimate dream. But would you? I mean, our relationship. Could you really accept Molly on a more permanent basis? I wiped my suddenly damp palms on the crisp cotton of my apron. I don't know what to think. She squeezed my hand, her expression turning serious, though her eyes still held that warm light. Michael, I've known for months, and I'm still here, aren't I? I find this side of you fascinating. It complements something in me. So yes, I can absolutely see a very convincing Molly emerging from this. But before we get to that, we need to figure out what that means for us. What her role would be. The twin feelings of exhilaration and terror intensified, swirling inside me until I felt dizzy. Should I go make some coffee? We could sit in the kitchen and talk. You've made me very curious. Yes, Eleanor said, her smile returning, full and decisive. Let's do exactly that. She turned and headed for the stairs. I followed a step behind, acutely aware of the swish of my dress and the solid, comforting presence of Molly, who was, for the first time, about to be truly seen. Watching Molly move through the house, I still felt a quiet thrill of accomplishment. It was like observing a sculpture I had helped to carve, now imbued with its own life and grace. 6 months had passed since that first conversation in the kitchen, 6 months of careful, dedicated transformation. The change was breathtaking. She was so different now, so utterly and confidently womanly in her pretty floral house dress and starched pinner apron, a perfect portrait of a 1950s homemaker. Where on earth do you find these dresses, Molly? I asked, my curiosity genuine. They're so wonderfully old-fashioned. She turned from dusting a bookshelf, a mischievous glint in her soft brown eyes. A little second-hand shop downtown, Miss Eleanor, she answered. I found a treasure trove of vintage clothes for a song. The owner is a lovely young woman. She even knows about my situation. I was amazed at how openly she now referred to her identity. I was also secretly pleased by her insistence on calling me Miss Eleanor. It had started as a playful experiment, but it had quickly become a pillar of our new architecture. It defined our roles, a subtle but constant acknowledgement of the dynamic we had built. In a strange, unofficial way, she was my employee, and we both drew a unique satisfaction from that fact. You're a clever thing, I replied with a small laugh, glancing at my watch. It's getting late. I have to run, my calendar is packed today. Yes, Mississippi. You'd better go. Her hands, always so restless when she was Michael, were now poised and delicate as they fussed with the ties of her organdy apron. Any preference for dinner tonight? Let me think, I mused, enjoying the ritual. Fish would be nice. Perhaps some beautifully marinated fresh salmon with a green salad? Let's try to be good. Your cooking has become far too tempting these past few weeks. A wonderful idea, Mississippi. I agree, I could stand to lose a pound or two. My waistline isn't what it ought to be. I smiled, a cunning idea forming. And Molly, I added, my voice softening, I'd like you in a proper uniform when I return tonight. How about the dove gray one, with a fresh white apron? I want my pretty, efficient maid to welcome me with a chilled Sauvignon Blanc on a tray. A lovely blush bloomed on her cheeks, and I saw the flicker of delight in her eyes. I knew her so well by now, she would seize any opportunity to fully inhabit the role. Yes, Mississippi. I'd love that. Have a wonderful day at work. She surprised me then, rushing forward to give me a tight, heartfelt hug. "Thank you," she whispered against my shoulder, "for everything you've done for me." I was touched by her raw sincerity, but kept my composure, patting her back gently. "It's all right, dearest. What I've done for you, I've also done for myself. We're in this together, for the long haul." "We certainly are, miss," she said, pulling back. "And you are the very capable captain of this ship. You'll make me late, you little minx." I feigned anxiety as I opened the front door. "I'd better go, or I'll miss my first meeting." As I drove, my mind replayed the profound changes of the last half-year. After a professionally managed and wildly successful makeover, hair, makeup, deportment, voice coaching, Molly was now permanently in female attire and utterly radiant for it. I couldn't even picture her in trousers anymore. It felt like a costume from a past life. She had adopted the role of my devoted housewife and maid, and I had encouraged it at every turn. It was a delicate, magical balance between us, and against all odds, it worked. She was still technically a freelance programmer, but I'd noticed a distinct shift. Her passion for coding was waning, replaced by a fervent interest in domestic arts. When I gently confronted her, she admitted that since her transformation, the sterile, competitive world of software held little appeal. She was actively discouraging new clients. It was only a matter of time, she'd confessed, before she gave it up entirely. That had sparked a flicker of worry in me. Not about the loss of income. Michael had been left independently wealthy by his parents, but about the potential for boredom. A life of pure domesticity, even in a house this large, could curdle into aimlessness. There's only so much cleaning and cooking one person can do. And then an idea had taken root, a solution that could solidify her new identity in the most tangible way possible. I'd made some discreet inquiries at my firm, a large corporation with hundreds of employees. I asked if anyone was looking for a truly committed and meticulous cleaner, someone who desperately needed the work. I had the perfect candidate, I'd explained, a transitioning woman who took immense pride in her work. I was, of course, her primary reference, mentioning that she already cleaned for me twice a week. The response was enthusiastic. I carefully selected 3 professional women who lived alone, none of whom were in my immediate social circle. I offered Molly services for 3 days a week at the standard hourly rate. The detail that truly sealed the deal was when I mentioned Molly preferred to wear a simple maid's uniform while working. They were incredibly impressed. All of this had happened without Molly's knowledge. A smile touched my lips as I pictured her reaction. Tonight, after our salmon dinner, I was going to present it to her as a fait accompli, a gift. If her fantasy of being a maid was as deep-seated as she'd confessed during our long, intimate nights, I had no doubt she would accept it with breathless eagerness. I let out a sigh of deep contentment as I pulled into my reserved space in the corporate garage. Our life, the one I was building, was good. And having my devoted Molly at my beck and call made it even better, especially since our physical life, as unconventional as it was, had become more passionate and satisfying than I had ever imagined possible. I checked my reflection one last time in the hall mirror. The woman looking back was a study in quiet efficiency. I thought I looked very smart in my dove gray dress, its crisp white collar and cuffs a stark contrast to the soft fabric. Over it, I wore a full white apron, the bib starched to perfection. Black tights and my 2-inch black court shoes completed the ensemble. I'd pulled my hair, now much longer thanks to the subtle extensions we'd added during my makeover, into a high, sleek ponytail secured with a simple black ribbon. I certainly looked the part, a pretty and efficient maid, just as Miss Eleanor had requested. I wasn't so sure about the pretty, but I definitely felt efficient. An unusual nervousness fluttered in my stomach as I waited for her to return from work. She had seen me in this uniform many times, yet tonight felt different. I'd sensed it this morning when I'd hugged her goodbye, a particular, calculating look in her eyes. Call it feminine intuition, it was a sense I was slowly, surprisingly, beginning to trust. The sound of her car crunching on the gravel driveway sent me into motion. I hurried to the fridge, my heart thumping a steady rhythm against my ribs. I retrieved the chilled wine, poured a perfect glass of the pale Sauvignon Blanc, and placed it on a small silver tray. I positioned myself by the door, a welcoming sentinel. She came in looking tired, the lines around her eyes a testament to a difficult day. But the moment she saw me standing there, tray in hand, her face transformed. A genuine, radiant smile erased her weariness. "That's my girl," she said, her voice warm with appreciation. "This is precisely what I was dreaming of all day." "Thank you, Molly. You're a gem." "My pleasure, miss," I answered, the blush rising to my cheeks as I executed a small, almost instinctive curtsy. It wasn't something I'd practiced, it just happened. "Oh, I like that," she said, her eyes crinkling at the corners. She took the glass from the tray, her fingers brushing mine. "Please keep doing that. It suits you." She took a slow, deliberate sip of wine, her gaze appraising me more carefully. "And you do look wonderfully efficient. That gray dress is perfect on you. The length is just right, just below the knee. And the apron accentuates your waist. Have you lost weight?" More blushing. "I wish I had, Mississippi." "No, it's just my waist cincher. Good for you." "I could never wear one of those things, far too restrictive." "You're right, Mississippi. I never wear it for my heavy chores, but I do love the feeling of a narrow waist. As someone like me, I know my limitations. The belt helps create the illusion of a more feminine figure." "Aren't we chatty tonight?" she said with a soft laugh. After another sip of wine, she added, "I'm famished. I'm going to go change. You can serve dinner in 5 minutes. And please join me. We have things to discuss." As I slipped out of my work clothes and into a comfortable silk kaftan, I knew Molly suspected something. I had seen the flicker of apprehension in her eyes when I'd said, "We have things to discuss." But I would tell her tonight, after dinner, when the wine had softened the edges of the day and opened us both to new possibilities. If her drive to be a cleaner, a true maid, was as potent as I believed it to be, she would embrace my proposal, even if she felt a performative need to feign reservations. The meal was exquisite. Molly was rapidly becoming a truly competent cook. The bottle of wine we shared made us both relaxed and a little giddy, our conversation light and peppered with laughter. After she cleared the table, I asked her to open a second bottle. The warm, fuzzy feeling was a perfect lubricant for the conversation to come. "Have you nearly wrapped up your old business, Molly?" I asked, my tone deliberately casual. "Yes, Miss Eleanor. I only have one client left, and I'll finish his project by the end of this week. After that, I think I need a permanent break from the software world. It's too stressful, too competitive for me now." "I'm glad to hear that," I said, leaning forward slightly. "Because I found some work for you. To get you out of the house. Work as a cleaner." The mixture of fear and raw excitement that washed over her face was a precious thing to witness. I was enjoying this, and the wine was certainly amplifying the pleasure. "Work?" she whispered, her eyes wide. What kind of work? Where?" "It's not scary at all," I continued, my voice calm and reassuring. "In fact, it's simpler than you think. I asked around at my office, and it turns out 3 professional women are in desperate need of a reliable, daily cleaner. So, I offered your services." I paused, letting the information sink in. "I thought Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays would be good days for you. That leaves Mondays and Thursdays to manage things here, and our weekends free to be together. What do you think?" The fear in her eyes was now almost entirely replaced by a dawning, brilliant excitement. That's a huge step for me, Mississippi, facing the world out there as Molly." Did you tell them about my condition?" "Of course I did," I said gently. "You could never fool them for long, no matter how perfectly you present yourself. Women are far more perceptive about these things than men." But it was actually a benefit. They were intrigued. They all said that people like you tend to be the very best maids and cleaners, because for you, it's a choice, a passion, not a grim necessity. And in your case, they're spot on. You're a committed maid by your own will. Nobody is forcing you to do this. Am I right, Molly dearest?" She was blushing furiously now. "Yes, Miss Eleanor. You are right. Nobody is forcing me. But, tell me more. Who are they? And the uniform, do they provide one?" As I said, 3 single ladies who need you once a week. I'll give you the practical details tomorrow. And yes, I mentioned that you prefer to wear a simple uniform while working. They were very impressed. I am the one vouching for you, Molly. I told them I employ you as my cleaner twice a week and that I'm exceptionally pleased with your work. So please, make an effort not to disappoint them. That would reflect very badly on me. Wow, she breathed. You're really acting as my employer. Do they know about us? That we live together. I had to act as your employer. It was the only way to sell your services professionally, I explained. And don't worry, I don't socialize with these women. They're in different departments, and they know nothing about my personal life. As for the uniform, I have no idea. So, when you go for your first day, pack one of your plain uniforms and an apron. As soon as you arrive, you should ask where you can change into your work clothes. And I forgot to mention, you'll be paid the standard minimum wage for a domestic worker. It'll all be informal, cash at the end of the day. I watched her closely as I spoke, saw her mind racing to assemble the pieces of this new reality. Until now, her life as Molly had been a private performance, a game of dress-up played out in the safe and loving confines of our home. Now, she was being asked to step onto a real stage, to become a real cleaner for people who would have real expectations. This is for real, she murmured, as if reading my thoughts. I can confess to you, Miss Eleanor, though I suspect you already know, this is one of my deepest, most secret fantasies. I've always wondered what it would be like to be a lowly female cleaner, earning a living scrubbing other people's floors. Now I have the chance to find out. Indeed, you do, I replied, my voice firm. And I hope you're able to cope with being a lowly female cleaner, as you call it, out there in the real world. Because once you start, you must stay committed for the foreseeable future. Otherwise, you will discredit me as your sponsor. I let that hang in the air for a moment before adding the final, crucial detail. Because I forgot to tell you. The first time you report for work, you will carry a formal letter of reference from me, addressed to each of them. It will be your ticket into their homes. It will be proof of your identity and that they can trust you. I am vouching for you, Molly. For your competence and your trustworthiness. I saw a new kind of concern in her eyes. This was no longer a game. This was a serious commitment. Then, something remarkable happened. She stood up, adjusted her apron, and with a shy smile and another one of those perfect little curtsies, she said, I solemnly declare to you, Miss Eleanor, as my primary employer, that I will not let you down. I will do my very best to be a competent and dedicated cleaner for these ladies. I couldn't hide my astonishment or my profound pleasure. Thank you for that, Molly. I believe you. And I trust you. I found I was getting quite used to the curtsy. Trying to break the sudden intensity of the moment, I added, now, you can go and do the dishes. I'm going up to my bedroom. I have some emails to catch up on. Later, when you're ready for bed, please join me. I want my maid to sleep with me tonight. Yes, miss, she answered softly, a new light in her eyes. I would like that very much. And she began to clear the wine glasses from the table, her movements graceful and sure. It was 8:15 a.m. I stood before a monolithic block of luxury flats in one of the city's most exclusive neighborhoods, the polished brass and smoked glass gleaming in the morning sun. My stomach was a knot of tightly coiled wires, a blend of pure terror and dizzying excitement. I consulted the piece of paper in my hand one more time. Flat 5 to 7, Jennifer Blackwood. I scanned the pristine intercom panel by the main entrance, finding her name. But my instructions from Miss Eleanor were explicit. I walked a few meters down the building's gleaming facade until I found it, a plain, utilitarian steel door, almost hidden from view. A small sign in stark, bold letters read, Trades and Domestic Staff. The bells on this panel were marked only with flat numbers. This was my entrance. I was domestic staff. Help. The thought sent a jolt through me, a thrilling, vertiginous drop in my social standing. I glanced at my reflection in the dark glass of the main door. My outfit was deliberately modest, a simple denim skirt that fell to my knees, a plain cream-colored blouse, thick opaque tights, and low-heeled, sensible shoes. My hair was pulled back into its neat ponytail, my makeup barely there. The only jewelry I wore were the tiny gold studs in my pierced ears, a recent gift from Miss Eleanor, who had handed them to me along with the sealed reference letter addressed to Miss Jennifer Blackwood after a thorough inspection of my appearance this morning. In my large shoulder bag, I carried my work clothes, a plain blue uniform dress, and a fresh white apron. I checked my watch again. 8:25, 5 more minutes. I paced back and forth on the pavement, trying to breathe, trying to calm the frantic hummingbird wings in my chest. At 8:30 sharp, I pressed the bell next to 5 to 7. A crisp, clipped female voice answered instantly. Yes, it's Molly. The cleaner, I said, my own voice sounding thin and unfamiliar. Come up. Service elevator. 5th floor. A harsh buzz sounded, and I pushed the heavy door open. I stepped into a stark, gray corridor. There was no art on the walls, no plush carpet on the floor. I took the service lift, a cramped metal box painted the same industrial gray, notable for its complete lack of mirrors. Another gray corridor greeted me on the 5th floor, lined with a series of identical, dark gray doors, clearly the back entrances to the opulent flats. I found F7 and knocked hesitantly. The door opened immediately. A tall, willowy blonde woman in her mid to late 30s, dressed in an impeccably tailored business suit, looked me up and down. You must be Molly, she said, her voice the same crisp tone from the intercom. Welcome. Good morning, Mississippi. Yes, I'm Molly. I fumbled in my bag. I have this letter for you from my employer, Miss Eleanor Vance. Yes, thank you. I was expecting it, she replied, taking the envelope. Her cool, light blue eyes scrutinized me as I stepped into a vast, modern kitchen. I could tell instantly this was a woman who valued formality. She slit the envelope open with a perfectly manicured nail and read the letter quickly. Right. Everything seems to be in order. Your employer recommends you very highly. She says you're a diligent worker and you pay close attention to detail. That is essential. Thank you, Mississippi. I'll do my best, I replied with a cautious smile. You may call me Miss Blackwood. Did you bring working clothes with you? I understand you prefer to work in a uniform, which is fine by me. In fact, I prefer it. It clearly defines your status. Yes, Miss Blackwood. I brought my uniform. Where might I change? Of course. Let me show you. She gestured towards a door at the far end of the kitchen. There's a large laundry room through there. You can change in there. You'll also find a small WC for your own use. My previous cleaner, who had to return to her home country, left a couple of her old uniforms behind. You're welcome to use them if you wish. I believe she laundered them before she left. They're probably in one of the drawers. Judging by your size, I imagine they'll fit you. Was that an order disguised as a suggestion? To wear the uniform of her previous maid? A fresh surge of excitement, sharp and electric, shot through me. The idea of wearing a uniform that had been used, day in and day out, by another real maid was intoxicating. Thank you, Miss Blackwood. I'll go and change, and I'll have a look at the uniforms. Very good. I'll give you a tour of the apartment when you're dressed and explain my expectations. Call for me when you're ready. Yes, Miss Blackwood, I replied, moving towards the laundry room. I found the drawer immediately. Inside were two folded uniforms, one black, one a soft dove gray. They were more formal than my own, more parlor-maid than cleaner. I quickly tried on the gray one. It fit as if it were made for me. I decided to wear it. It might make a good impression. From my bag, I took out one of my own large, bibbed cotton aprons with a discreet ruffled edge and a fresh white band for my hair. I slipped on my comfortable flat shoes and returned to the kitchen. I stood in the center of the gleaming room, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions swirling inside me. I felt as if I'd been dropped into a parallel universe. I was dressed in clothes that weren't mine, in a completely alien environment, about to work for an employer who knew me only as a cleaner. In her eyes, that was all I was. As if summoned by my thoughts, she returned to the kitchen. She looked me over from head to toe, an appraising, almost approving look in her cold eyes. Rose's uniform fits you well. You look the part. She paused. May I ask a favor of you? Of course, miss, I replied, wondering what on earth she could want from me. I know your name's Molly. But while you were working for me, would you mind if I called you Rosa? Rosa was my cleaner for many years. Before that, she was the live-in maid for my parents. I grew up with her. I have a soft spot for the name. I stared at her, dumbfounded. I had just lost my name as well. I truly was in another universe. Of course, miss, I answered, my voice a little unsteady. I gave another small, instinctive curtsy. The loss of my own identity, first Molly and now Michael, seemed to liberate something within me. You can call me whatever you like. Rosa is a lovely name. She smiled, a genuine, broad smile for the first time, and the ice in her eyes seemed to melt, just for a second. I think we'll get on very well, Rosa. And I like your curtsy. You seem to have the right attitude. Now, let me show you around the flat. Half an hour later, she was gone, leaving me with a long list of tasks. I was alone in the vast, silent apartment. It felt utterly surreal. I wasn't cleaning my own home. I was a daily domestic named Rosa, paid to clean up another person's life. And she was certainly not a tidy person. Clothes were strewn across a chair in the bedroom. The bathroom was a mess of cosmetics and damp towels. I started by tidying, then moved on to changing the bed linens, dusting, and vacuuming. I was about to tackle the master bathroom when my mobile phone, tucked into my apron pocket, vibrated. It was Eleanor. "Hello, Miss Eleanor," I said, my voice soft, trying out the new, more formal dynamic even with her. "Hello, Molly. How are you doing? I've been thinking about you all morning. How's your new employer?" "She's a bit eccentric," I whispered, glancing nervously towards the door. "She changed my name to Rosa. That was her old maid's name. And she had me wear one of Rosa's old uniforms. A gray dress and a big white apron. I feel like I'm in a play." "Wow," Eleanor laughed softly on the other end. "Rosa, that's a fantastic maid's name. I bet you're enjoying that. How's the work? Can you cope?" "I'm managing. It will be easier next time, once I know the routine. But you're right, I feel like I'm in another world. It's completely new. I'm certain you're loving it, dearest Molly, or should I say Rosa. Your dream is finally coming true. I have to run to a meeting now. Tell me all about it tonight. What time do you expect to be home?" "Miss Blackwood will be back around 5. She'll inspect my work and pay me. I should be home around 6. "Good. I'll see you then. I'll make something simple for dinner. You'll be exhausted after a hard day's work. Bye for now." "Goodbye, miss," I replied and slipped the phone back into my pocket. It was past 5 and I was in the laundry room, ironing a stack of Egyptian cotton sheets, when I heard the front door open. I heard Miss Blackwood's heels clicking on the hardwood floors as she walked through the apartment, obviously inspecting everything. Finally, the laundry room door swung open. A smile was on her face. "Hello, Rosa. At first glance, it seems you've done a fine job. The flat looks wonderful. It smells so fresh. Are you nearly finished with the ironing?" "Yes, Miss Blackwood. Just finished. I'll just change into my street clothes and I'll be with you in a moment." 10 minutes later, I was leaving through the back door, the way the help was expected to leave. I had an envelope in my hand containing my first wages as a domestic. Miss Blackwood thanked me again and said she looked forward to seeing me next week. Next time, she'd added, "You can wear Rosa's other uniform, the black one. And you can take the gray one home to launder." Gosh, I thought, as I stepped out into the evening air. What a day.